welcome to Teaching Mathematics. Today we're joined by Twanette and we're talking about teaching grade 12s how to do revision, or maybe doing revision with grade 12s. Hello, Twanette.
Hello, Helen.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
It has been a while since you were here.
Yes, think I did one of your first shows.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, your cell phone went off during it.
Correct. I've switched it off.
Good, so you can't get through to Twanette right now. She is busy for the next hour, but you can talk to her through Twitter using the hashtag MEMaths or using the Facebook post on the Facebook page. Just go to Facebook, search for Digital Classroom South Africa, then find the post. Karen will be watching it because Dylan is away on holiday. Isn't he lucky?
Jeez.
Sure. Hello, Karen. Welcome.
Hello.
Okay, now... of course, you can win money if you talk to us. You can win 110 Rand Vodacom airtime. If you talk to us during the show, you can use either Twitter or Facebook, or you can use the little chat box. So you're looking at us now. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see there's a little chat box there. Karen is logged in as Digital Classroom, and he'll be watching all three of those platforms. And then at the end of the show, once we've said goodbye, we'll sit down and we'll chat about who made the most interesting comment, and then we'll contact that person and tell them they've won 110 Rand airtime. That's always nice.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So do something. Go onto Facebook. Go onto Twitter. Get that money.
And of course, this is quite a controversial topic because we don't often get to revision. And then when we do revision, it's sometimes seen as there have been times that I treated it as a free lesson for myself and got the students to hide my head in shame. But that is the truth, isn't it? There are teachers who are like, well, I've taught you everything now.
We don't need to do revision.
Yes, especially if you have a headache that day.
Yes, but it's crucial.
Yes, it is.
If you want success as a teacher, you have to do revision with your kids. And the more time you have to do it, the better.
Yes, because it's always time spent doing it that impacts the mark at the end. Now, before we go on to this in any more detail, there is something else you can win. Not only can you win airtime, but if you don't have anything to spend the airtime on, we also have phones and tablets to give away. Now, it's a nice phone. It's a Sony Xperia L, and it's a Samsung Galaxy Tablet 4, I think. I keep meaning to check, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's all down in my cupboard waiting to be won. All you have to do is send in an interesting teaching resource. Don't send something from the textbook. Send a worksheet that you've developed, or maybe a website that you've used in teaching a particular section. And it doesn't have to be today's topic revision. It doesn't even have to be last week's topic of probability. Or it just has to be something that you've used effectively in your classroom. When you send through the submission, you need to send it to the email address competitions@digitalclassroom.co.za. And you need to include the secret code that will appear at some point during the show at the bottom of the screen. So watch out for it and send through some submissions. It'll be good. Okay, now, Twanette, you have been here before, but it was a long, long time ago. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself again?
It was a long time ago, but I have been teaching mathematics for 15 years. I didn't realize it's that long, actually. I've taught at government schools in Cape Town, at a all-girls school, a private school in Cape Town, and at the moment I'm teaching at a school in Gauteng, a private school in Gauteng, and I've been teaching senior maths, grade 10, 11 and 12.
Okay. So you've had quite a lot of experience then.
Yes, it's been going on forever. The other day I thought how many years it's been since I've matriculated, and then I realized it's quite a few.
Yeah, I don't even want to go into that calculation. Recently, not so recently anymore, it was quite a few weeks ago, we had someone in, and afterwards we were talking with him about general things in teaching, and he was saying that he heard a statistic recently that after the first 3 years, teachers don't change their teaching strategy. That's who they are after 3 years of experience.
Really? No.
That's what he said.
No.
Would you agree?
No, I don't agree with that. I think I change on a daily basis. I really do. I think you'll be bored to stiff if you stay with the same strategies and the same planning. But no, every lesson, every class, I've got a different strategy.
There is a danger
I really do believe
in
that.
mathematics to think that, okay, I know how to do this the best way now. Maths doesn't change. We've been teaching Pythagoras since Pythagoras. There is that danger to think that the
That you can
technique
just do
will
it.
always be the
Yes.
same.
The technique will be the same, but it's the child that you teach. That's the problem. I've been teaching calculus for 15 years, and this year, for the first time ever, they just didn't understand the concept of a limit, of something getting closer and closer together, but not actually reaching it. And I had to go to different lengths and different ideas to explain the concept to them.
That's quite interesting, because this is the first year that's done CAPS. I wonder
Yes.
if it's got something to do with the change in syllabus, that they're not understanding limits anymore.
I don't know. For me, it felt like it's always been easy, but this year it's been a challenge. And
then you changed your teaching practice to
you
suit
have
them.
to. We even went outside and had a concept of something getting closer and closer together, but not actually touching. But yes, so no, I don't think you can stay the same year after year. Definitely
Okay.
not.
I think you can, but I think it'll drive you crazy,
It'll
like you
drive you
said.
crazy.
Yes. So, someone else recently said there are four stages to change. The first stage is being unconsciously incompetent, which means that you don't realize that you're doing something wrong. Then the second stage to change is being consciously incompetent. So you're like, oh, hold on a second, maybe I can do this better. The third step is then consciously better. I forget what the big word was, so we'll call it consciously better, which means that now you're trying to better your practices. And then the fourth stage is unconsciously better. So eventually it becomes a part of who you are,
Just being.
and you just carry on like that. And I think a lot of teaching is like that, where you teach a certain way, you teach, and it's not that you're incompetent, you just don't realize that there might be another way that's just a little bit better.
I do agree with you, and I also think that you're so used to teaching a certain concept and so used to your old worksheet and your way of doing
Yes.
it, and then all of a sudden there's a new website, or there's an interactive tablet, or there's an interactive whiteboard that you can use. But you're so used to the normal stuff that you don't realize what's
Yes.
out there. Especially for me. I mean, we came from old school, and now we've got all these new things that we can use, and it's amazing, actually.
Yeah. Okay, I am going off topic here, and I
You are.
realize it's all my own doing, but it's a good conversation to have. Please join in the conversation. But I'm going to continue now with the scheduled program. Those of you who have been watching for a while know that I've been reading this book called Teach Like a Champion, and if Karen will just pull up the slide, we'll see that today's step is step number 17 out of 49, and it says ratio. I have no clue why it's called ratio. This man is an English teacher, I think, and I don't think he's understood the concept of a ratio.
We'll explain it to him quickly.
Yes. But anyway, basically the technique says you can't just explain something once and expect learners to get it. You need them to participate in re-explaining it and applying their knowledge in different situations. And that's my summary of the chapter. The chapter was quite well written. It sparked some thoughts about how do you explain things. And I have been in the situation where, okay, so I was trained intermediate and senior phase, but the only job I could get was teaching high school maths. And so I started teaching high school maths with no training, and pretty much the last time I did matric work was when I was in matric. But I did it because I got paid to do it, yes. Mm-hmm. And then I had to teach financial maths, and I haven't done financial maths. I don't think it was even taught when I was in high school.
No, it wasn't. And that's quite tricky.
Yes. So I just gave an explanation and made them substitute in. I didn't re-explain it because I only had the one explanation, and I didn't know how to re-explain it or get them to re-explain it to me. And if they had re-explained it to me, I don't think I would have understood their explanation. And so I did only explain it once that first year. And they didn't get it. Surprising.
And you realized?
Yes. Yes. So I think in order to do this, you need to have good content knowledge yourself and be confident.
You do?
Yeah.
But that takes a while. I must say, I still find that, let's take finance, for example, recently, it's just with your experience, you know a little bit better. You know how to explain a little bit better.
Yes.
But you need to know your content. You need to know immediately that that's going to be a future value sum or that's going to be a present value, and that comes with experience.
And those formulae are scary.
They're very scary.
Well, they look scary. They're not so bad when you can interpret them.
And remember that they're on the formula sheet, so that helps. But with experience, you definitely teach them for keywords to look out for, which links them to the formulas. So it helps. It does help. But also here where they're saying you have to, you can't expect your learners to understand something if you've explained it once.
No, you really can't.
And I have found myself as well that even by the third time, if you've explained something, you want to say, but really, it's not that difficult, but you can't. And you have to try another strategy. I often get a student up and I say, okay, I don't know, anybody else? And often one of the pupils will come up and they'll say, okay, listen now. What if the money is deposited here and it's taken out there? Sometimes it helps if their peers explain to them.
That's exactly what this is saying. Get them involved in it. Well done, Twanette. You have stuck to the book without even knowing it. Yes. Well, no. I would just avoid some of the steps. They irritated me quite a bit. But this one I think was good, and last week's. You should go back and watch last week's show. So should all of you. Okay, now we're talking about revision within grade 12. And you've got a 5-point teaching strategy here. And it's not like content where usually we talk about you teach this, then you teach that, and then we maybe use this idea and things like that. With revision, there's no real guidance given in the CAPS document.
No, there isn't. It is difficult. I'm a strong believer, though, of revision. You have to do revision. I know it's difficult, especially in grade 12. Your syllabus is jam-packed, even in grade 11.
Let's take a look, actually. Yes, carry on talking.
But if you've got the time to do revision, you'll see the results.
Yes.
You definitely will. Your syllabus is full, but if you can do revision, it'll be beneficial for your class, definitely, and your results.
And I've got on screen, and Kieran's going to pull it up for us, something I did 2 weeks ago with Robin. She was talking about probability and statistics, and then we decided to compare the weeks versus the number of marks all of the sections were in different the papers. Yes. And we see that there's the breakdown. It's 300 marks are a lot of marks.
Yes, and it's a 3-hour paper.
How long do you have for revision?
We, for the first year, this year, where I'm currently teaching, we've got about 4 weeks of revision.
That's crazy. How did you get that right?
But we're very lucky. We've been teaching on Friday afternoons.
Outside of school time?
Outside of school time.
How do you get the matrics to be there?
Well, they don't really have a choice. It sounds terrible, but we chose an afternoon where there's no sport.
Okay.
If there is sport, it's a bit later. So you can have a 2-hour session. We had a 2-hour session from 2 to 4, and we taught the matrics. We did sometimes in big groups, in a lecture group, but mostly in our class venues. And we taught topics. We taught probability. In an afternoon, we taught analytical and statistics. In one afternoon, you can finish it all.
That's craziness.
And then give them homework, which they then do in the following week.
Yes.
Over and above the homework that we're currently doing in class.
Yes.
And we mark that the next Friday, and your topics are done. But it's commitment from your teachers, first of all, and you need to get your students there. You had 1 or 2 that couldn't come, that had some other horse riding practice or some crazy thing.
Private schools.
Yes, but they quickly realize the benefit of being there. So now, the end of the year when it's crucial, we've got revision time.
Because 4 weeks, you can divide that chunk up really nicely.
Exactly. And if you think of, let's take calculus or sequences and series, we did that in January.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
So now if you take your class and you put them down and I say, right, tell me what you can remember about sequences and series. You will be lucky.
Yes.
If you get arithmetic and geometric maybe. And so it's crucial. It's crucial to then do past question papers on those topics.
Well, let's look at your 5-point teaching strategy now. I'm just going to make it full screen quickly. And the first one says topic by topic revision is essential. And we had a discussion about this earlier, private discussion between you and me, but make it public.
I've always said that revision should be done with past papers. I still believe in that. Exam type questions should be done. This topic by topic revision I've only done recently, where we literally take the topics. So if we've got 4 weeks to revise in, they're going to write paper 1 first. So we'll start with our sequences and series, number patterns, calculus, probability, your paper 1
So
topics.
You do a whole lot of questions around sequences and series.
So what I've done is I'll take sequences and series, let's say, and I have extracted questions from past papers, from way back, from recently, from papers from other schools.
Okay.
So all the questions will be based on sequences and series.
Now,
and they'll do that.
This is our first year of CAPS.
Yes.
So how has that affected this process?
It's been affected for paper 2 mostly, where you struggle to get geometry.
Okay.
Or past questions on geometry. There are a few exemplars on different websites. Luckily, if you're me and you've taught for long, and you've taught a few years back at Camps Bay Days in Cape Town, you've still got your files. I know everybody says CAPS is new, but we've actually done it.
Well, maths is maths.
We did it a few years back. I'm fortunate to have a lot of old resources, but teachers must remember the paper 3s that's been written.
I just clicked that you could have taught me.
That's really not good to say on camera, but she's lying. I'm not that old. But paper 3, there you will find your geometry questions, because you won't find any of them in last year's paper or the year before in 2009 or 2010. But we forgot about the paper 3s. They'll have all your geometry questions. So go to paper 3. Go onto the IEB website, Mindset's website. Go and find those paper 3s.
Or even
and then
the DBE.
Department of Education paper 3s and do those questions. But what I have found with topic by topic is the kids then focus on one concept.
Okay.
And we revise it thoroughly so we remember everything. And we get different types of questions with different levels of difficulty.
Yes.
And we do that. Done with sequences and series. 2 days.
Can I stop you there?
You can.
So you're doing this topic, and you come across this concept within the topic. Do you then teach the concept because it's in that question? Or do you let the question guide the revision, or do you try and find questions that suit the revision you want to do?
I find questions that suit the revision I want to do.
Okay.
And I also start easy. Because now if we start with sequences and series that we did in January and I throw them with a high
level 4 question,
I've lost them.
Yes.
So I start easy. I start with the basic sequences and series, let's say questions. I do let them get more difficult, let them progress like the paper would. But I do choose them the way I would like them. What I did with calculus as well is before we start the questions, in the classroom situation, I say, right, let's write down everything on the board we can remember of calculus. Anything they can remember.
Okay.
And they come up one by one, or they put up their hands and we write down everything. And I said, right, have we missed anything? And this is purely on what they can remember. And that is also quite an eye-opener, because a lot of them would say, yes, that's everything. Definitely, they haven't missed anything. And there would be lots that they've missed. And they'll realize that what they actually still have to go and revise.
It must be really interesting to see who remembers and who doesn't.
Definitely. It also makes them see, because it's easy for a teacher to say, you guys can't remember the basics.
Yes.
But if I do that and they've written it down and I said, right, now on this side, you've missed. I know what they've missed because I've been doing it for years.
Yes.
And they are shocked. They are completely shocked at what they've missed and what they've remembered. And from there, we write it down, sort of as a mind map, and then we start with questions.
Sure.
It has worked.
Yeah.
But you need time.
That mind map is valuable.
What I've also done before is I put them in groups. Instead of me doing everything, I say to them, right, what can you remember on analytical? And, that's easy, because analytical is always easy. But
Yes.
I break them up in groups, and I said, write down everything you can remember that you need for analytical. And then they big mouth. All the formulas also. I said, everything. And once again, then we get back together and we compare the different groups. And then they realize what they've missed. And
I think that's important because it is showing them that they don't know everything. And it's a very real representation, rather than saying, well, look, you did this question and you only got 3 out of 10 marks, so you don't know this, and this. It doesn't have the same kind of feedback.
yes,
as
for me, it's just that they see it. They physically see it.
Yes.
And then we use A3 papers, and then they can somehow use that for revision as well.
That's fantastic. You know, there's a saying that says a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, because if you have a little knowledge, then you think you know everything, and it's okay. That's very true of teenagers in general, but especially with maths.
Definitely. I think to revise topic by topic, I would suggest it. If you've got the time, rather than starting immediately with a paper and it's moves from sequences and series into number patterns,
Yes.
a little bit of calculus, brings you back to the K method in grade 11. It frightens them if they haven't revised
Yes.
adequately.
Okay, your second point is pretty much the same as your first. Well, you've said it already,
In papers,
which is
yes.
revise topics in different papers together. Your third point on the slide says start with grade 11 work. Okay, so grade 11 work, so that's like the Euclidean geometry that hasn't really been taught in grade 12.
Yes, and work that they've forgotten. Even if you just think on trigonometry, they forget. They forget that they've done in algebra. They forget that K method. They forget how to solve simultaneous equations.
Yeah.
You can't believe it, but they actually forget. So for me, it's important that you revise your grade 11 work,
Yeah.
paper 1 work. I would definitely do that. Then go to my grade 12 paper 1 work, and then move on to grade 11 paper 2.
So you would you still do it topic by topic then? Like algebraic expressions, would you have grade 11 style
Yes,
questions,
definitely.
then grade 12 style
Yes.
questions,
If
then
you-
move on to...
Yes. Recently, for now, when we go back, I've made equations, exponents, and surds, for
Okay.
example. But we've done equations in grade 12 as well. A calculus equation, or we've done log equations.
Yes.
But with that's the topic, equations, exponents, and surds. And in there, I'll start with grade 11 and then move into the grade 12 work.
Okay.
Questions from that.
And taking questions from grade 11 papers, do you find
Definitely.
it's useful?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I've used in November papers, and I've even used some of the exemplar papers that I found online. And
Okay.
even from the Department of Education, I've taken grade 11 questions from grade 11 papers
Yeah.
for my grade 12s now to revise. Because that's another thing. You must remember, they're writing on the whole of grade 11 and the whole of grade 12.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Back on the slide, revision questions must come from past exam papers, and then practice, practice, practice. Twanette, I don't know if that's the right practice or not. I know one is spelt with an S and the other one with a C, and
I won't know.
I don't know. So
I sent that, and I wondered about that as well.
Yeah.
I've got no idea.
yes, it comes with a disclaimer, the slide.
What I want to emphasize, though, is that pupils or teachers don't just revise from the textbook.
Its textbook is there for a first step teaching. It's not there
But
for...
often I've even found with students that they redo all the sums they've done for homework. And that is wasting 4 hours of your time.
Yes.
Because those textbooks are used all over the country, and you're not going to find that same sum ever again.
Yes.
You'll find similar but not the same. You need to practice exam-based questions from previous papers.
Where they throw a couple of concepts into one question and to recognize those concepts. Now, I want to go back to the division of marks quickly. So I'm doing a bit of acrobatics here. And then we've got, I think, F11 makes it full screen. I learned something new the other day. So we're looking at the division of marks. How would you split up your time in revision in class? Would you base it on the amount of marks that are there?
I would definitely. If we just take paper 2, for example, I must admit I always say to the students a lot of time must be spent on trigonometry. But if you look at the mark allocation, 40 marks of your 300 is trigonometry, and 50 is Euclidean, which is circle geometry.
And measurement. What do they ask in measurement?
You see, measurement, It's
not even taught in grade 12.
No, it's not taught. We don't even teach it. They give you a lampshade or a little side lamp, for example, that stands next to your bed, and they ask you to calculate the volume or the perimeter or the total surface area.
Okay.
They have a beautiful picture of it, but they give you the formula. You must remember, for measurement, they'll always give you the required formula.
Okay.
I think last year or the year before, there was a beautiful pyramid with a camel, and how long would it take this camel to climb up the pyramid, and it was fantastic for 15 marks, but they will supply the formula.
Okay.
So it's
And that's
literally
obviously in the
substitution.
IB paper
Yes.
that appeared.
Yes.
Okay.
So my advice would be, at this stage, to spend lots of time on the geometry.
Yeah.
It's new. The kids haven't seen it. The pupils haven't written on it. They've been exposed to it once, I suppose, in most schools, or they're going to be. Ours have written our prelims, but the government schools are going to write a prelim soon.
Yeah, it should be happening in the next week or so.
Yes. And for the first time, the grade 12s are going to be writing in a geometry paper. They're going to be writing. And then again at the end of the year. And 50 marks on Euclidean geometry. That's quite daunting. It's quite daunting. They've got to prove a theorem. They'll probably have to complete a theorem where they give the statement and complete it, and then prove a theorem, and then it's application. And that's what they brought back, because they have found at university that the kids can't apply themselves, and geometry does that.
Okay, now in terms of this, we've got 25 for the first section, 25 for the second, then 15. I would convert those all into percentages and then work out the amount of time I should spend in class. But then I would also tell them to use that ratio in their studying. Would that be a good thing to do?
Definitely. It doesn't help to spend weeks revising statistics.
Or probability for 15 marks.
For 15 marks. No, they must actually just remember they are grade 12 and they must just use their sense. Probability, you do 2, 3, maximum 4 questions on probability. You make sure you cover a tree diagram, a Venn diagram. You make sure that you can do your basic outcomes, use your probability rules, and you're done.
Yeah.
You finished revising with that. But you have to spend time on your functions and graphs.
Yes.
Euclidean and your trigonometry. That's what I always say.
So you would tell them to be strategic in the way they study.
Definitely.
Always keep in mind what the mark allocation is.
Definitely. We've printed that out, and they've got it in the front of their books.
Okay, so that's
also a very good idea.
Also see.
Go onto the website, get this, teachers, give it to your pupils so that they can see it, so that they know you're not just talking.
It is in the grade 12 statistics and probability blog post, so you can go there and find it there.
Definitely.
Otherwise, I could probably repost it in this week's blog post, so
just
that
so
means
that
it'll be up tomorrow.
Everybody can see it and everybody knows.
Yeah.
To spend time on it. Analytical geometry is 40 marks. It's a lot of marks, but it's easy marks. Easy being, did I say probability? I meant analytical.
No, analytical geometry. I'm just thinking 40 marks on analytical geometry.
It's easy marks. They can do it with their eyes closed, but they must practice and do a lot of
Yes.
questions.
So it is possible for actually they could do really well in these papers.
In
if
paper
they
2,
do.
I always say you can do well. Sounds hectic. I know the geometry is difficult. I know the geometry is new.
But they've got statistics and analytical geometry,
Which is
which add
already
up to
60.
60 marks out of 150. So that's already more. And then trigonometry they've been doing since
grade 11.
During
Since
gone.
grade 10, actually.
But the same could be said for Euclidean geometry. They've been doing it since grade 10.
Yes, you're right. They must just spend time on trigonometry and Euclidean. Trigonometry, you forget in grade 12 that you've got your double and compound angle identities, and they struggle with those.
Yeah.
And they've got to do a lot of revision on those.
Okay, we're going to go to your 3-point teaching strategy, or 3 pressure points. Just getting it up full screen.
Oh, that's what I said.
And
yes.
it says redoing the sums in their class workbook. Is that something they should be doing or shouldn't be doing? So you're saying the sums that they've got out of their textbook.
Yes, and I often, recently, when we wrote prelims, I found matrics redoing all their sums, even the revision exercise at the back of the textbook.
Yeah.
I suppose
It's got more merit than exercise
least if you-
1.1.
yes.
But
but redoing all your sums, or sitting with your workbook, looking at the sum and redoing it, you're not practicing, and you're
Yeah.
not being exposed to exam type questions. So for me, don't even look at that.
okay.
Go and find an exam booklet. There are lots available.
And there are a whole lot online that you can print out. Or
There's a
they
lot
can
online.
gain access to on their phones. They can look at and they can use.
And you do those.
Yeah.
You go through those papers. I've always said, you start with last year. Yes, there's going to be things that we haven't done,
Like linear programming.
like linear programming will be in there. There will be things that's not in there, like the Euclidean geometry, but at least do the questions you can from
Yes.
those papers. Go to paper 3. Go and do those geometry questions. Because it's the only way. You have to sit down and physically do them.
Yes. Okay, the second point on the slide says not revising from old examination papers. And the third point says not practicing enough.
Not revising from old examination papers is if they do the textbook stuff. If they go back and they do exercise 1.1 or exercise 1.2 or exercise 3, they've done it. They've seen it. Then you need to find as most stuff as possible that they haven't seen.
Okay.
There's lots. We've just seen. There's lots and lots. There's examination aid is a booklet that they can buy.
Okay.
It's also online. I think
Yeah.
examination aid on your website, on Mindset's website.
Yeah.
I know, and Edie, there's also a website. There's lots that they can find.
Yeah, and actually, if you go to our website, and Kieran's going to pull it up on screen now, you'll see that we've got a section up there that says exam papers. It's not as easy to navigate as the subjects. Subjects, you click and you find what you're looking for immediately. But it's still relatively easy. You click on exam papers, and you're brought to this section over here, and it shows everything. So that's when you go to filter by subject, and you click on mathematics. And it has both the exam papers. You'll see it says exam paper there. And it has memos. There's a memo. And you can go filter by year as well. So we could go to 2014, and we see that there are 11, Afrikaans and English. And where we've been able to source exam papers from government or from IEB, we put them up, and you're welcome to go use them. You could, if you've got a PDF viewer on your smartphone, they can just look at it. You don't even have to download it. I mean, you don't even have to print it. You can just use it straight from there.
And I see you've got papers from a few years back.
Yes,
Which
quite
is
a few
very good.
years back.
Because you'll find the work that they're doing now, or the new work that came in. You'll find them in the older papers, not the most recent papers, unfortunately.
That's interesting.
And go and find your paper 3s for your Euclidean.
Yes.
But in your 2008, 2007 papers, you'll also find some geometry. Because we did do some geometry in those years. When was Camps Bay Days? Long ago. 2000 and long ago.
I don't know. But
For
I was
me.
teaching in 2007 and we were...
5 maybe.
I think 2005.
You will find them. I don't know if it's that long back. Not 2007, 2005.
Well, I don't know. If you know, you can always let us know.
I think it was 2005.
And while you're on it, let us know how to spell practice, please.
I've got no idea.
No.
I don't know if it's a S or a C.
Okay. So I've written down on my piece of paper to remind us what we must talk about. We've spoken about study techniques, and we've spoken about how we divide up the time and how students divide up the time. But one thing that I really feel really strongly about is that it is our responsibility as maths teachers to teach them how to study for the subject. Because it's different from history and from science and from English.
Yes, I agree with you. Definitely.
Yeah. You know, we do the science shows. And for me, being a maths teacher, I thought all teachers just had the same reaction to their subject in their classroom that other teachers had. But meanwhile, the science people come in and they talk about science and they talk about what they're able to do in class and things like that. And what always astonishes me is that students, the majority of the students, actually want to be doing science. It's not something that their parents have forced them into or anything like that.
They've actually chosen it.
Yes. Whereas maths is different. It's
they're
seen
forced.
as a gateway subject. So we're stuck with trying to get them to enjoy something that we love, but
they don't necessarily love.
Yes. That was a little aside. I was going somewhere with it. But I think, okay, now I remember where I was going with it. When you love something like maths, I love the beauty of how something will work out. And I love the challenge when it doesn't work out, trying to figure out where it's wrong.
But there's a few of us.
Yes.
That's the problem. Not everybody loves it.
We can't just assume that people, we can't just assume that everyone's like that. And we've got to try and inspire that in the students, or at least give them the tools how to cope, how to recognize a wrong answer, and how to recognize where they've gone right, or where they've gone wrong.
That's difficult. That's very difficult, Helen. If you think of trigonometry, if you've got to prove an identity.
Yes.
Recently.
In trigonometry.
Yes, in trigonometry, when you have to prove an identity, when it's one of those left-hand, right-hand side ones.
Okay.
Yes. So you're given the equation, and your left-hand side must get to the right-hand side. And it's fabulous to see the right-hand side, but to get there.
Yes.
And often, and recently, I've had grade 12 saying to me, but how did you know? And to be honest with you, I had to turn around and I said, because I've been doing it for 15 years.
Yes.
But for the cos identity, you've got 3 options to choose from. How did I know which one to choose? I said,
practice.
4 years ago, I chose the wrong one. But it's been year after year, so now I know which one to choose. So it's very difficult, because then they'll say, but I'm going to sit in an exam and I'm going to choose the wrong one and I'm never going to get to the right-hand side. I said, yes. Then you have to scratch it out and you have to start again. But that's part of maths. You have to keep on trying and work hard. It's hard work. It's not sitting down and studying. I always say it's having the pen in your hand, and maths goes through that hand into your head. The more you do,
you have to do it.
You have to do it. They said, yeah, but even if we see it doesn't work, I said, it doesn't matter. Then you start again and again and again. And I see it with my little one as well. He's in grade 4.
Yeah.
The more long division sums we did, the better he became. It's easy, Mom, he said. You just take down and you carry over, and you know that.
Yes.
Daddy, Mummy, brother, sister.
Yes.
But the more he did it, the better it became. So for me, it's practice over and over and over.
I've got a nephew who's also in grade 4, and he wrote his first set of exams recently, and he told me very proudly that he didn't need to study maths.
No.
Yes. And so I said, well, you play cricket. Yes, he plays cricket. Do you practice bowling? Yes. I said, why? You know how to bowl. Why do you practice? No, so you can get better. Well, that's a concept with maths. It's not just about knowing what you're doing. It's about getting it right. And it's not just about getting it right. It's about getting it right in the time that's allocated to it.
Yes. And I also want to say to you that eventually they see a pattern. They recognize the questions. And I know that sounds crazy, but you do. You recognize, you read the question and you say, oh, yes, I've seen this before. I've done this before. And that really is true. I had a student 2 years ago. He was literally on the 40th. Maybe, no, not even 50. He was 40. And he walked in and he said, I want to fly. That's what I want to do. I want to be a pilot. I said, well, then you'll have to sit here every afternoon and work through a paper every afternoon. And perhaps, if you're lucky, you'll get there. And I thought, and he came in every afternoon. His mom is actually a teacher at our school. And he sat and he did a paper. Every afternoon from June. And he's flying.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Sure.
So
well,
it's
there
possible.
we go.
It's possible, but you need to sit down and you need to work.
Yeah.
That's how you study maths. And people say, but it's just, I'm wasting my time. You're not wasting your time. The more sums you do and the more papers you work through, the better your results will be. I can guarantee it.
I find also that the more sums they do, the less emotional involvement they have in it. So they get this wrong the first time, they're really, really upset. They get it wrong the second time, they're not so much upset. Eventually they start getting it right and they get excited. But then when they get to that point where they don't feel emotion anymore, they see the problem, they see the solution, then they know
they at least know how to attempt it. They at least know how to start. And I also feel that there's a pattern. The more you do, there's a pattern to the sums.
Yeah.
I know for mathematicians it sounds, yes, it makes sense, but for you out there is a pattern. Eventually you'll see there's a pattern. You have to change tan to sine over cos, for example, or...
yes, and that you do. You must practice over and over again. So these are the kinds of things you should be telling to them when you're teaching them about study techniques in...
That's what, in maths specifically. I know in other subjects you can sit down, you can read through the notes, you can memorize it, you can repeat it, but mathematics is a pen and paper constantly. Always, always, always.
Oh, it rubs me up the wrong way when people say they don't need to study for maths. And I'm sure everyone out there has had people say that to them.
Yes, and everybody believes it. Like I said, I've got an 11-year-old that is so glad on Thursday he's writing maths because he doesn't have to study. But last week we had social science, then we had mind maps and revision worksheets. And
yes.
But again, it's easy. You print a few worksheets off a website and you do it.
That brings up another interesting point. I wonder, parent involvement. Now, we are teachers, and so obviously we want to teach.
Kids.
Yes, shame. But parent involvement is so key in a child's development, and even in grade 12, to have some kind of... Parents don't necessarily need to know how to do the thing, but they need to be supportive in the students doing it.
Definitely, or at least just ask them. I have now recently had parents saying, but he doesn't know what to study from. He's done all the sums in his book. And like I said, that's wonderful. But we've got the examination aids at school. We've got the websites up. We've got a Moodle site with all the past papers.
Maybe we should also be doing study techniques with parents.
Ask them, have you got the book? What are you studying from? How much maths have you done? Show me.
A letter home to say, listen, dear parents, your job is almost done. You've got grade 12, so they're almost out the door. However, in order to help them, why don't you make sure that they've studied so many hours or done so many questions on this, so many questions on that.
We were flabbergasted for prelim exams that there were actually students that don't have examination aids. So they were preparing for the prelim exam and they haven't done one exam paper, past exam paper.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, they didn't know.
Yeah.
But I suppose, they are 18 or 17. They must somehow learn to take responsibility.
Oh, yes, that is true.
But it's a tough year, and it's a full year. So if you are able to squeeze in extra lessons, maybe even think of holidays, to do some revision in holidays. I know it's terrible.
As a teacher then.
As a teacher, to get them back. If you can get them back one day early, let's say in your June,
just
July
to
holidays.
Their memories. Yeah.
You can even just go do last year's paper. Do 2 papers. The paper 1 and the paper 2 as revision.
You know, when
It's just an idea.
many years ago, not as many as you, but when I was still teaching.
When I taught you, yes.
When I was still teaching, I used to tell them when they're doing that last bit of revision, they need to do an exam paper 4 times over, I think it was. The first time, without any external resources. Just do it as much as you can, see what you do, mark it. And second time, do it with your textbook and your workbook there, and try and get all of the answers.
Okay,
yes.
Those that you left out.
Yes, mark it. Third time, do it again with no external resources, and then mark it. And the last time, to focus on doing it as fast as possible. So you can use the same exam paper over and over again.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that idea. I have forgotten, and that actually reminds me, is they have to also learn to finish because they can struggle. A trigonometry identity, you can prove and prove and prove and prove. And by the 3rd or the 4th time, and you still don't have it.
And you've wasted half an hour.
You know. So we've also got to teach them that bit of strategy, that they have to spend a certain amount of time per sum.
Yes.
And get going. Rather come back, but you can't spend forever. I have found with Euclidean geometry, if they struggle, and then the more color they put on, and the more lines they put in, and the more X's they put in, they get so confused that they don't know where they are. So rather, I would also suggest move on to the next sum.
Yes.
You can come back.
When you feel confident, come back. Don't go there once you've just got something completely wrong, the trig identity that you couldn't prove. Don't then try to do something more difficult. Go and do something that's more easy. Get your confidence up, and then go to the difficult again.
They must also remember, or the teachers must also remember, that the papers are also set, that they go from easier to more difficult. So tell the students to complete as much as possible in Section A.
Yes.
Finish your Section A. Make sure you've done everything there. Check it, double check it, do it. Move on to Section B, and then skip. Do as much as possible, but check that you've done your Section A, because they're the easier. And those are set in mind for most pupils to at least then pass or to get through. So it's important, after topic by topic, that you do also do a whole paper.
Yes.
So that they are exposed to the setup and the sections, and
doing the time constraints.
Especially the time constraints.
Okay, then we were going to talk about brainstorming, which we've spoken about, and we've spoken about the importance of practicing over and over again, but what we haven't really spoken about is them teaching each other.
I love that. I really do. I've even often found now with the Euclidean geometry that there are difficult sums, and to be honest, probability is not my strong point at all. And we
all have a section.
And I often find with probability, I'm just not sure.
Are you one of those one explanation people with probability?
Sure, no. I've been there, but I think I've really got a bit better, I must admit. But recently we had a probability where I can't remember. If you take 2 out, then it's the same as taking 1 out. Or I don't know what the story is.
Okay, we'll believe you. Yes.
It's difficult. And it was just so difficult to explain. And I couldn't, the kids, but if you have a sack of marbles and you've taken out 2 blue ones, it's the same as having, I don't know. Eventually I gave up. I said, I don't know. I really don't know. And we've got a very good teacher at our school. He's a male. Been teaching for years, and he's very good. Went to find him. He wasn't in his class. Came back, and I said, okay, guys, we'll have to wait until tomorrow. I just don't know. And then one of the boys said, can I try, ma'am? I said, yes, please. And it was fantastic. He stood up, and he explained it in a completely different way. So much so that I understood. Then I said, whoa, I need to write this down so that I can do it again next year. But sometimes it's just the peer gets to their level.
Yes.
I try and I try and I try, but often it helps. I've had it in finance as well, where they just couldn't understand that you have to. If you take the money out, why are you still getting interest for it? And he went and he said, "Let's buy a car." And again, it was a boy. It was one of the male students explaining. And all of a sudden, they got it. So
Do you think males are better at maths?
I think males are better at geometry.
Okay.
I really do think so. Maybe it's just me. I think that the females are very good with the X's and the Y's and the algebra.
So procedural things
Yes.
they can do very well,
Yes.
step by step.
But your 2D trig and your 3D trig, when you've got three triangles and you're putting that one triangle down with a flagpole,
Yes.
the boys can immediately see it. It's the girls.
Do you think it's maybe a Lego versus Barbies thing?
Helen, I don't know. Even
Lego.
Karen's excited about
the
the
boys,
Lego.
the
I love
boys
Lego.
immediately see it. Even if you have to do similarity,
Yes.
which we're doing in grade 12, the Euclidean is very difficult. If you have to prove two triangles similar,
Yes.
it's easy if they're next to each other and you can pick one up and you can put one down. But if it's up there and it's twisted and it must be turned around,
They can't girls
see it.
struggle.
The girls, the teacher cuts out the triangles. I literally cut out 2 different colored triangles that's loose on the board. And then I turn it for myself and for them to see how the one fits on top of the other one.
You know, we had someone in recently, Lee, who spoke
but that's
about
a personal opinion.
geometry, Euclidean geometry, and that very problem. And she says students must learn that they can turn their page around. They must turn their page around so that they can see all of these different things. Of course, cutting out your exam paper would be a bad idea.
It sounds crazy, but I cut out different colored cardboards on the board
Yes.
to show the girls because the boys easily. But can't you see it? Especially if you've got to put them in proportion. So the 3 angles KLM must fit on triangle BDE, and they can't say KLM fits on DEB. They must, and the boys see it immediately. The teacher even, so she cuts out the big colored triangles, and that helps really. So I do think. I think
wonder
males
what
are
everyone
better.
else's thoughts are. I'd like to get general opinion on this. I don't know. Because when I left teaching, we weren't doing Euclidean geometry.
My husband obviously agrees with me.
Yes,
But
well,
that's his forte, and he gets very frustrated with me if I can't see it. If I can't see a 3-dimension or I can't see a different plane.
yes.
Even in 2D and 3D trig, where the kids have to realize that the triangle is sort of into the board. It's a flat surface with a flagpole.
Yes. I
The
can't
boys
see
can
it.
see it. The girls struggle. They do.
Very interesting.
Maybe it's Lego versus Barbie. Like you
Maybe.
said.
I don't know. Okay, do remember that on the Mindset channel, which is 319, we do have revision programs coming up for grade 12. So tell your students to watch out for that.
Yes, because they're going to be writing prelims soon.
Yes, and then also on our website you can find revision material for, especially last year. We do have content from last year. Like you said, it's not quite caps. Not all of the questions will be applicable, but take what you can from it and use it. We are coming to the end of our time. Can you believe it's been almost an hour already?
No, I
No.
can't. Just warn the pupils also that if they go to the most recent past papers, not to get a fright if they see something they
Linear
haven't done.
programming,
Because
yes.
I've had a few students coming to me in a panic that we haven't been taught this, and they haven't. They're quite right. So just warn them that they're aware of that.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming in, Twanette.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope I made a little bit of a difference.
I think it's good to talk about these things. And
Yes.
yeah, we all know them, but to
Different
actually
ideas.
speak them and get them out in the open so that people talk about how to do revision.
And how important it is.
Yes. I like your idea of doing it topic by topic. I think it makes
Try
a lot
it.
of sense.
Try it, and just, for me, the most important is try and do a little bit. Try and do a little bit of revision. It really, really, you'll see the success. Your students will see it.
Yeah.
And you as a teacher will also see it.
It feels good.
Feels good.
Yes. Thank you, Karen, for pressing all the buttons.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Great job. And we'll see you again next week. I've forgotten what we were talking about, but it's grade 10 something. Grade 10 Euclidean geometry. That's what it is. Yes, it'll be fun and games. So join us next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Created using Powtoon. Created using Powtoon.